Right now, somewhere in America, someone is pulling into a gas station they have visited 100 times, pumping $30 or $40 of fuel into an engine worth thousands and not thinking twice about it. And here is the thing, that single decision, made out of habit or convenience, might be the most expensive mistake they make all year. Not because of the price per gallon, because of what is actually in that pump. Here is what the gas station industry will not tell you. Not all gasoline is the same, not even close. Every brand you pull into is drawing fuel from essentially the same regional pipelines, the same shared terminals. The base product is a commodity. But what happens after that? The additive package injected into the tanker before it leaves the terminal. That is where your engine's fate is decided, and most of the brands you see on every highway exit are cutting that process down to the bone. The EPA sets a minimum standard for detergent additives in America. Gasoline. It is called the lowest allowable concentration. And the real kicker is, that standard was established not to protect your engine. It was established to meet emissions targets. A coalition of the world's biggest automakers, including BMW, Toyota, Ford, General Motors, Honda, and Audi, looked at that standard in 2004 and said it was not enough. They created their own certification, top tier, because they were watching engines fail at alarming rates on minimum spec fuel. Carbon buildup on intake valves, fuel injector fouling, combustion chamber deposits, strangling performance out of modern engines, rough idle, hard starts, hesitation, lost fuel economy. This is not a theory. This is decades of repair data. And get this, an independent engine testing lab ran a 100-hour continuous engine cycle, the equivalent of 4,000 real miles of use, and found that top-tier gasoline left 19 times fewer carbon deposits than fuel meeting only the EPA minimum. So the question is not whether fuel quality matters. The question is, which brands are silently wrecking your engine while you reward them with your wallet every single week? Stick around until the end, because the final brand on our trusted list is one you probably drive past on your morning commute, and you never knew it was quietly working in your engine's favor. Avoid brand number 1, Murphy USA. Murphy USA has built its entire identity around one thing: the lowest price on the street. You will find the pumps right outside Walmart parking lots in over 1,500 locations across the country, and that is not an accident. The strategy is pure volume. Get the price low enough, park it next to the biggest retailer in America, and let foot traffic do the rest. And for a long time, that strategy has worked brilliantly for Murphy's shareholders, not for your engine. Here is the thing. Murphy USA is not top-tier certified, not in any grade, not at any location. That means the detergent additive package going into their fuel meets only the EPA's lowest allowable concentration standard. Translation, the bare minimum the law requires. While BMW, Toyota, and Ford are publicly on record saying that minimum is not sufficient for modern engines, Murphy is pumping fuel that hits that floor and stops there. But here is where it gets truly desperate. The Better Business Bureau has documented multiple consumer complaints involving water-contaminated fuel at Murphy USA stations. One verified complaint involves a customer whose motorcycle engine suffered complete failure due to water ingestion from a Murphy pump, confirmed by an independent mechanic, resulting in an $8,000 repair bill. Murphy's response was to offer $500. When pressed, the company's position was that there was nothing more they would do. And get this, in that same case, Murphy USA's customer service confirmed the pumps had been contaminated with water at the time of purchase. That is not a quality control program. That is a liability management program. The real kicker is the underground storage tank situation. Murphy stations are often bare-bones operations, minimal staff, high volume throughput, and storage infrastructure that is only as reliable as the individual franchise operator's maintenance schedule. When you are pulling fuel from a tank that has been stressed by heavy turnover and limited oversight, the water contamination risk climbs sharply. Your fuel injectors are operating at clearances measured in microns. The liquid sandpaper Murphy sends through them costs pennies. The injector replacement it causes costs hundreds. Bottom line, Murphy USA is the fast food dollar menu of gasoline. Cheap going in, expensive coming out. But if you think Murphy USA is bad, wait until you see what RaceTrac is doing. Avoid brand number 2, RaceTrac. RaceTrac has over 600 stations, concentrated across the American South, and they have done a genuinely impressive job of making the gas station experience feel premium. The stores are clean, the coffee is decent, the branding is sharp. Here is the problem: the fuel going into your tank is not matching the aesthetic going into your eyes. RaceTrac is not top-tier certified. Like Murphy, they are operating on minimum EPA detergent standards. But what makes RaceTrac particularly worth calling out is the disconnect between the brand presentation and the fuel reality. They spend real money making you feel like you are somewhere quality conscious, and then they load your tank with minimum spec fuel and charge you prices that are often not dramatically below the top-tier competition down the street. And get this, fuel sourcing at RaceTrac is highly regional, pulling from whatever terminal supply is cheapest at any given time. There is no proprietary additive program, no terminal-level injection of a branded detergent package, no OEM endorsement, no partnership with any automaker's fuel quality team. The additive that gets into your combustion chamber is whatever generic detergent package the terminal supplier threw in to clear the EPA bar. The consumer impact compounds over time. Your engine is not going to seize tomorrow. That is not how minimum spec fuel works. What it does is build carbon deposits on intake valves at a rate that is dramatically higher than what top-tier fuel produces. For a gasoline direct injection engine, which is now standard equipment on the majority of new vehicles sold in America, intake valve deposits are a known and serious problem because GDI engines do not wash the valves with fuel the way port-injected engines do. Minimum spec fuel in a GDI engine is slow-motion corrosion of performance, fuel economy, and eventually the components themselves. Are you noticing more rough idling, more hesitation, more trips to the shop since you settled into a regular gas station habit? Drop it in the comments, because what you are about to hear next is why that pattern is not a coincidence. Translation: RaceTrac is selling you a premium atmosphere and budget chemistry. Your engine knows the difference even if your eyes do not. But if you think RaceTrac is playing it loose with your engine, the next brand has made cost-cutting its founding principle since before most of its customers were born. Avoid brand number 3. Arco. Arco is a legend in American gasoline retail, and not entirely for the wrong reasons. When they launched their low-price model in the early 1980s, eliminating credit card acceptance to shave costs, they were genuinely innovative. In California alone, they became the dominant cheap fuel choice, eventually building a network of over 1,300 stations in the western United States. But there is a brutal difference between being a pioneer and being current. Arco is not top-tier certified. In a state like California, where gasoline direct injection engines are ubiquitous and where air quality regulations have pushed automakers to build the most precise, tightest tolerance combustion systems in the world, Arco is pumping EPA minimum spec fuel. The real kicker is that the OEMs writing those engine specifications, BMW, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, are on record saying minimum spec is not enough for their hardware. Arco's answer to that engineering reality is, here is a lower price, look away. The supply chain story here is important. Arco is now owned by Marathon Petroleum, which acquired it through the Endeavor deal in 2018. Marathon operates Arco as a price-focused discount brand. The additive investment that goes into a gallon of Arco fuel reflects that positioning. There is no Chevron equivalent. There is no proprietary 3-stage detergent system. There is no terminal-level branded injection. There is fuel that clears the legal minimum, loaded into tankers and delivered to stations where the selling price is the primary competitive weapon. For a driver running a turbocharged 4-cylinder, which describes the majority of new vehicles sold in the last 5 years, filling up at Arco regularly is the automotive equivalent of using the cheapest possible motor oil and changing it every 15,000 miles. Technically legal, technically functional in the short term, and quietly catastrophic over the long arc of ownership. Bottom line, Arco's low price has always come with a hidden invoice. Your intake valves are the ones who eventually get handed the bill. Here is the good news. The fuel industry is not entirely a race to the bottom. There are 6 brands operating right now that have made a genuine, verifiable, technically meaningful investment in what goes into your tank. These are the brands that BMW, Toyota, Ford, and General Motors are pointing their own customers toward. These are the brands your engine would choose if it could. Swipe the credit card itself. Trust brand number 1. Chevron. Chevron has been in this business since 1879, and the thing that separates them from every other legacy oil company is that they did not coast on their history. They invested in chemistry. Chevron is Chevron's patented detergent additive, and it is not marketing language. It is a polyethyramine-based formula injected at the truck loading rack at a concentration that significantly exceeds the top-tier minimum standard. Chevron has held top-tier certification continuously since the program launched in 2004, one of the founding participants. The data on Chevron is genuinely impressive. Chevron's own controlled testing, using engines disassembled and weighed after extended use, shows consistent reduction in both intake valve deposits and combustion chamber deposits compared to minimum spec fuel. Translation: Techron is doing real cleaning work on real engine surfaces, not just meeting a threshold. And get this, Techron is the additive that independent mechanics have long recommended for engines already showing deposit symptoms. 1 tank of Chevron has become a standard recommendation before major service on high-mileage engines. That reputation was not purchased. It was earned through consistent results. If you have been watching this channel and you have not yet subscribed, now is the time. Every week, we are breaking down exactly what the automotive and fuel industry does not want you to figure out on your own. Hit subscribe and make sure you never miss it. The consumer impact of choosing Chevron long-term is measurable. Consistent top-tier use, according to OEM data cited by Consumer Reports, results in meaningfully cleaner intake valves, more consistent fuel economy, and reduced drivability complaints over the full ownership period of a vehicle. Bottom line, Chevron with Techron is not the cheapest option at the pump. It is the cheapest option when you account for what you are not paying in injector cleaning services and carbon deposit repairs. And if Chevron is the gold standard for detergent chemistry, wait until you hear how Shell turned the formula into an arms race. Trust. Brand number 2, Shell V-Power. Nitro Plus is the closest thing the retail fuel market has to a purpose-built performance product. Shell's additive system is a 3-stage formula that does 3 distinct jobs simultaneously. It actively removes existing deposits, it lays down a molecular protective barrier to prevent new deposit formation, and it targets the specific carbon accumulation patterns associated with gasoline direct injection engines. That third function is not an accident. Shell's fuel engineering team has been working with OEMs on GDI-specific chemistry for years. Shell has held top-tier certification since the program's inception, but the real kicker is that Shell's investment in additive technology goes well above the top-tier minimum. AAA independent testing in 2017 found Shell's performance in preventing intake valve deposits was among the top results across all tested brands. Ferrari and the Dodge Viper program both designated Shell V-Power as factory fill and recommended fuel, not as a marketing arrangement, but as a technical specification. The consumer impact is most pronounced in the engines that need it most. Turbocharged, high-compression, gasoline direct injection powertrains, the kind sitting under the hood of every modern performance vehicle, every European luxury sedan, every fuel-efficient compact crossover built in the last 8 years, are the exact engines Shell's formula is engineered to protect. If you are driving anything with forced induction or GDI architecture, Shell V-Power is essentially functional armor for your combustion system. Bottom line, Shell V-Power Nitro Plus is the industry's North Star for retail fuel quality. Every other brand on this list is chasing what Shell has already built. Trust brand number 3, Costco Kirkland Signature. Here is the thing about Costco, they have absolutely no business selling gasoline this good at this price point, and yet they do it anyway. Kirkland Signature gasoline is top-tier certified, available at over 600 fuel stations attached to Costco warehouses across North America, and it is consistently priced 20 to 50 cents per gallon below the branded competition. That math should make you suspicious. It should make you ask what they are cutting, and the answer is nothing in the fuel. Costco sources its Kirkland Signature gasoline from major regional suppliers, Phillips 66 and Chevron among them, depending on geography, and mandates that every supplier meet top-tier specifications. Costco's own published data shows their gasoline contains deposit control additives that form a protective molecular layer on fuel injectors and intake valves with lab-tested cleanup, results they publish directly on their fuel product page. Translation: Costco is not bluffing. The certification is real. The additive investment is real, and the independent intake valve test results they display are real. The consumer impact is straightforward. Top-tier protection at sub-premium pricing. For a driver doing 15,000 miles per year in a vehicle averaging 25 miles per gallon, Costco's fuel pricing versus a comparable top-tier brand saves somewhere between $120 and $300 annually, with equivalent engine protection. That is the kind of math that makes mechanics uncomfortable because it leaves fewer reasons to book injector cleaning appointments. Bottom line, Costco Kirkland Signature gasoline is the bulletproof value play in American fuel retail. Your engine gets the protection, your wallet keeps the difference. Trust brand number 4, ExxonMobil Synergy. ExxonMobil's Synergy fuel program is what happens when one of the world's largest energy companies decides to treat its retail gasoline the way its refinery engineers would treat a finished product, not a commodity. Synergy is ExxonMobil's branded additive system deployed across both the Exxon and Mobil station networks under top-tier certification that has been continuous since the program launched. The Synergy formula is built around 7 distinct performance claims, all independently verifiable. It cleans intake valves and combustion chambers, it protects against corrosion, it prevents fuel system icing, it improves fuel economy, it reduces engine knock, it removes existing carbon deposits, and it prevents new ones from forming. Here is the thing. That last point is where most minimum spec fuels fail. They neither clean existing deposits nor prevent new accumulation. Synergy does both in the same tank, every single fill-up. ExxonMobil has one of the deepest fleets of branded stations in the country, over 11,000 Exxon and Mobil locations in the United States alone, making Synergy one of the most accessible, top-tier options for drivers across every region. And get this, ExxonMobil's additive chemistry is developed by the same engineering teams that supply fuel systems analysis to OEM partners. This is not a brand that buys its formula off the shelf and calls it proprietary. Bottom line, Synergy fuel is the gold standard of availability. It is what you reach for when Chevron or Shell is not in reach, and you refuse to compromise on what goes into your engine. Trust brand number 5. Phillips 66 does not have the consumer marketing muscle of Shell or Chevron, and that is a genuine shame, because the fuel coming out of their pumps deserves far more attention than their brand awareness generates. Phillips 66 has held top-tier certification continuously, operates across thousands of locations in the United States through its own branded network as well as the Conoco, and 76 brands, all of which share the same fuel standards, and runs a proprietary additive program that consistently clears the top-tier bar across all octane grades. The real kicker is the triple network advantage. When you see a Phillips 66, a Conoco, or a 76 station, you are looking at the same fuel quality commitment under 3 different signs. That dramatically expands the geographic footprint of one of the most underrated additive programs in American retail fuel. For drivers in the Mountain West, the Midwest, and the Gulf Coast, where Phillips 66's refinery and distribution infrastructure is heaviest, this is often the most accessible top-tier option on the route. The additive chemistry in Phillips 66 fuel specifically targets fuel injector fouling, intake valve deposits, and combustion chamber cleanliness, the 3 primary failure modes associated with minimum spec fuel in modern engines. And their consistency across the full franchise network is one of the things that separates them from smaller top-tier brands, where individual franchise operators have more discretion over implementation. Bottom line, Phillips 66 is the quiet professional of American fuel retail. Less famous than the competition, equally protective of your engine, and far more available than most drivers realize. Trust brand number 6, Kwik Trip. The final brand on this list is one that most of the country has never thought about. But if you live or drive anywhere in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, or the broader upper Midwest, you have been driving past it your entire life. And it deserves the respect that its coastal competitors get. Kwik Trip is top tier, certified across its entire network of over 900 stations, and it has been for years. Here is what makes Kwik Trip remarkable in the context of this conversation. They are a regional brand, family-owned, without the global engineering infrastructure of ExxonMobil or the century-long additive research of Chevron, and they still chose to meet top-tier standards. That is a deliberate, values-driven decision that costs money and that the minimum spec competition decided was not worth making. Kwik Trip sources its fuel from major top-tier compliant terminals and maintains that standard across every octane grade at every location, the fundamental requirement of top-tier certification. Translation: you cannot walk into a Kwik Trip and accidentally get minimum spec fuel. Every pump, every grade, every location clears the bar that Murphy, RaceTrac, and Arco chose not to clear. And get this, Kwik Trip has earned a customer loyalty reputation in its region that rivals the national majors. Their stations are consistently rated among the cleanest and best maintained in the country. That operational discipline extends to their fuel supply chain. These are not stations where you worry about underground tank maintenance or water contamination events. This is a brand that treats its infrastructure with the same seriousness it treats its additive certification. Bottom line, Kwik Trip is the proof that a regional brand can outclass national competitors on every metric that actually matters to your engine. If you are in their territory, there is no reason to be anywhere else. The fuel industry runs on a 2-tier system, and the painful truth is that the majority of drivers are unknowingly fueling into the bottom tier every single time they pull in somewhere convenient or cheap. Murphy USA, RaceTrac, and Arco are not outliers. They are the norm. The brands skating on EPA minimum detergent standards represent the majority of gas station locations in this country, and they have never once been required to tell you that their fuel is doing the bare legal minimum for your engine and nothing more. Here is what the dealerships will not tell you either. A significant portion of the drivability complaints, rough idle diagnoses, injector cleanings, and fuel system service visits they profit from every year are directly linked to sustained use of minimum spec fuel. The carbon deposits are real. The intake valve buildup in GDI engines is real. The data from consumer reports, from the AAA, from 2 decades of OEM-backed top-tier research. It all points in the same direction. The good news is that the correction costs you almost nothing. In most American markets, the price gap between a minimum spec station and a top-tier station is somewhere between 3 and 10 cents per gallon. On a 15-gallon fill-up, that is $1.50. That is the price of protecting a $10,000 engine for another week. And if Costco is anywhere near your route, that gap essentially disappears entirely. Top tire protection at a price that undercuts the unbranded competition. Here is your one actionable piece of advice from this entire video. Before you pull into a gas station out of habit, spend 5 seconds asking whether it is on the top tier list at toptiergas.com. That list has over 100 licensed retail brands as of 2026. There is almost certainly a certified option within a reasonable distance of wherever you are right now. Make that your default. Your fuel injectors cannot advocate for themselves. Your intake valves cannot tap you on the shoulder and tell you they are being coated in carbon. But your wallet will eventually get the message loudly when the repair invoices start arriving. Hit subscribe if you want the truth about what is actually going into your engine in 2026. We are not here to make the industry feel comfortable. We are here to make sure you do not get burned by it.